Hey guys, this is Ish at Ish's Tactical Solutions, and today we were going to go over the AR-15 cartridges for an AR-15. These are my pick. Now, of course, the video says 15 caliber. It does get more watches because I put on their calibers. I mentioned that in the last one when we done 10 calibers or 10 cartridges. A lot of these we're not going to talk about very much because either one, we done a video about it before, or they actually two videos out on those. So there's only 5 new cartridges that we've done since then. Alright, so that just to let you know, some of these we're not going to talk about as much as the others. So we'll start with the smallest of my group, and that is the 223 or the 556. Just like before, I will say that the 223 and the 5.56, the best thing about it is, one, the availability of ammo. Number 2, it is the basis of this AR-15 platform. So all these cartridges would not be possible if it wasn't for that one cartridge there. Is that it is the most battle-proven cartridge out of every single one of these, and that is important. There are a bunch of negatives about it, and in fact we talk about this a lot with the liberal media, saying that this thing blows holes into people the size of your fist and to make them die slower. There's just all kinds of false claims about this cartridge that's out there, and it's just not true. One thing, it is a fast moving bullet, but it does not do all that great with distance. What it is, AR-15 with about an 18-inch barrel will actually hit out to 800 yards pretty good, minus some of the elements that will affect it. Remember, it's just a 22 bullet in a very large casing, and of course it functions very, very well. They've came a long ways. There's plenty of bullets out there now. I have almost changed my mind on the importance of the twist, but I'm not there yet. You have 17, 18, and 19 are the most popular. We've always said 17's for the heavier grain, 19's for the lighter grain. But to be honest, I just haven't seen it myself. I'm just going off of what I knew at the time. I haven't changed my mind. It's just that I'm not there yet. That's all I'm going to talk about, the 5.56 and or the 223. And moving along, we are going to go to one of the newer ones, which is the 224 Valkyrie. 224 Valkyrie has been pushed down our throat, and I'm not that big of a fan of it. Other than this, I will say that the ones with the 167 twist 18-inch barrels, they shoot with the 90 grain out of Federal, shoot very, very good. You got a bullet that's moving real fast. It is doing good past those subsonic speeds out to that distance. I think they said 1,300 yards, whatever the case is. All right, it is a 22 bullet, but it gives you the option, the ability to have a heavier bullet than that 223, and that's because it's put in a 6.8 casing, and it just causes this bullet to be much better. Problem is it's extremely picky. And another one that reminded me of that's a 300 Blackout. In fact, I would say that I'm sure this will get to where the 300 Blackout is, where there is enough twists, lengths of barrels, and bullets out there that will have some choices over time. It's just taking it a while. Probably take a little longer than the 300 Blackout, but I do believe it'll make it there someday. But it was pushed down our throat. It's here. It's obviously here to stay, and we might as well make the best of it. Like I said, distance-wise, I've done great. It was specific. 90 grain out of that Federal, 18-inch, 167 twist. I just couldn't get anything else to perform, and that's a lot of other people's on the same boat as I am with the 224 Valkyrie. All right, moving along. Here is the 2545 Sharps. Now with that 2545 Sharps, that is using a 5.56 casing, 25 caliber, made by Sharps. It turned out to be a pretty good bullet. It was very accurate at 800 yards. I just found it funny how it was almost like someone was throwing a pebble at the target out there, so it wasn't that much. It does okay on deer. We've shot a few. In fact, they got the Hog Buster, whatever they call it. This is an 87 grain pill, by the way. They got one that's like 100 grain. It does move it out to almost 3,000 feet per second. That's moving it. It does real good. It's a good bullet. I've lost a lot of interest in it. One is because the build that I made was a little too long. It's a 20-inch barrel. Got a big old scope on there. Too long a handguard. Too heavy. Too long. You know, looks, call it the Frankenstein gun. But other than that, I do plan to make a 16-inch or an 18-inch version one day, a little lighter, so I can do more with it. But with so many of these different cartridges out there, I did lose a lot of interest in it. It is not warranted, other than there's a lot of other things a little bit more exciting. How about that? All right, so that's all I'm going to say about the 25-45 Sharps. All right, now we're going to move into a new and exciting bullet, the 6mm ARC. Now, we have already done a review on the 6mm ARC. I don't know if I'm putting it up before or after this. I actually went and I shot it again today. It is holding very tight groupings. It's sending a 105 grain pill out there at 2,750 feet per second. I'm shooting it out of an 18-inch barrel. It uses the 6.5 Grendel casing with a 240, 243, or 6mm bullet. It is turning out to be pretty awesome. I don't have much data on it other than that, but I can say this. I've watched a lot of videos of people shooting coyotes with it, and they just love it. It's supposed to also stay out to supersonic speeds, out to 1,300 yards. It's supposed to be the new revolution. We'll see. Hornady's the one that put it out, so it doesn't. I don't feel like it's pushed down our throats like the 244 Valkyrie 300 Blackout. And even though it's a 6.5 Grendel parent casing, it's not like the 300 Blackout with the 300 Whisper that was actually out. In fact, and the same thing with 224 Valkyrie, just having the 223. I think that it's going to be a good bullet. I think that it's a good choice for the 15. It is one that I chose, and that's important as well. And I think that we're going to get some great results out of it. I truly believe that it's going to be worth its weight in gold. But, of course, I have been wrong about some of the cartridges sitting up here before. So, with that being said, who knows? Time will tell. All right, we're going to keep moving along. We're going to move to the 6.5 Grendel. Now, the 6.5 Grendel is that parent casing of that 6mm ARC. The 6.5 Grendel is one of my favorite, if not the favorite cartridge. It's been out for a while now, and it just gets better and better, which means it's just staying the same. It's just awesome. All right, so I use 123 grain. People are pretty limited on the 123 grain. It's like the Valkyrie or 224 Valkyrie. It's kind of limited to not so much the barrel length, but it is limited to barrel twist and that 123 grain. I like it from Hornady. The 6.5 Grendel has outperformed every bullet that I have on distance. In fact, at 300 yards, I am still, for me, held my best record with it with a quarter-inch grouping at 300 yards. I mean, that's under a quarter MOA, obviously, by far. Maybe it was closer to half an inch, but it's the best I've ever shot. It was only a 3-shot grouping, not a 5, but still. And my 800-yard shooting, in fact, now I can honestly say that I have taken the 6.5 Grendel out to 1,200 yards, which is the furthest that I have taken any of the cartridges out of an AR-15 platform. And I have the data on it as well. It has done great on coyotes. It has done great on deer. It is a magnificent gun and cartridge. And the great thing is all you need is a barrel bolt and, unfortunately, a magazine. So, just like the 224 Valkyrie, though, and the 6mm ARC. And if I'm kind of running those together, I'm sorry, there's so many of them sitting up here. But that's the 6.5 Grendel. You can't go wrong with it. Not much function problems with them anymore. So everything seems to be squared away. Turned out to be one of the best bullets out there. Moving along, we're going to move to another one of my favorites. This is my favorite coyote cartridge, my 277 Wolverine. The 277 Wolverine uses a 5.56 and or 223 casing, and it uses a 270 bullet. It has become that 90 grain gold dot moving around 2,700 feet per second has become one of my favorite 2650 more, but it's one of my favorite cartridges, and by far my favorite when it comes to coyote hunting, and I do a lot of it. I think that it does a great job on coyotes. Yeah, it tears it up a little bit, but boy, I like it when I don't have to chase them. And this is such a favorite one of my guns that I have several of them. One of them an SBR that I built to have my Envision thermal on it, so that I can hunt at night for those coyotes with it. Great gun, or bullet, made by Mad Dog Weapon System. It has turned out again to be one of the best. They took that 270 of the 6.8 bullet, put it in that 5.56 cartridge and or casing, and it has just made it a great bullet. Love it. Love that 90 grain gold dot as well. And here is the all famous 6.8 SPC, or it's now these days basically the 6.8 SPC2. This 6.8 has been a long haul, or the long shot dog out there, just keeps on going. It is great for hog hunting. It is great for deer hunting. I don't find it as accurate or as good as the 6.5 Grendel at distance. At one time I found it a much more reliable cartridge. It's not my favorite, but it will always be in the stack because it's reliable, it does its job, it is accurate, and it does do distance. Just there are other cartridges that do some of the things better than it does. When we talk about the whole military part of it, I've always said, look, yeah, sure, maybe it won't, maybe it's not the best out of the cartridges or whatever, but because of the functionality and the ability, that undoubtedly it is better than the 223 5.56. I'm all about it. Anyways, that's the 6.8 SPC. Awesome bullet. It will stay with us forever. All right, now we're moving on to the 300 Blackout. Now, as most of you know, I am not the biggest fan of the 300 Blackout. The 300 Blackout is in here because it is a mainstream cartridge. Now, I have messed with the 300 Blackout now enough. Barrel length does not matter on the 300 Blackout as much as the twist versus grain. So I have finally myself found out with the two 300 Blackouts I got, an SBR is one of 16 inches, the other, and the twist that they have, which bullets that I'm shooting the best. And now I am loading them, and I'll admit that it is doing very good. In fact, it's doing good enough that it also has one of my thermals on there, and that is because the 300 Blackout is, to me, kind of a good in between. You can still shoot coyotes with it, but it does pretty good on hogs as well, so it's turned out to be that for me. Now, of course, the 300 Blackout is much better, and that's because there's so many of them, and it's a 30 caliber in subsonic. I'm not taking away from that. It does have just a 223 casing. It's not any more power than the 7.62 by 39, and it's moving about the same speed. It is not good at distance. Taking it out to 400 yards, I've never taken it out to 800. That's because it did not perform well at 400 yards. I'm not saying that it was poor and this was out of my hands. It's just not as good as some of the other ones that I've taken out. So the 300 Blackout does have a lot of bullets now, and that is a plus about it. Plus, it's using the 5.56 or 223 casing, so you don't have to change that bolt and or the magazine. Okay. Moving on, the famous 7.62 by 39. Alright, 7.62 by 39 is one of my all-time favorites, and that's because availability of the cartridge itself. I got my Mutant. It's called the End of the World gun. I done the Mutant because there were so many modifications and gunsmithing that had to be done to the AR-15 true platform anyways, and that's without a huge modification. Things have changed finally. We do have those correctly slanted magazines where the AR-15 will do well, and in fact they're now putting a nice little spring in the hammer, or correction, the firing pin, to where we can shoot some of this cheap Russian ammo that we know out of those metal casings that you love to just shoot because they're so cheap. In fact, well, right now this is, I wouldn't say post-COVID, but during COVID, no, there is no such thing as cheap ammo. 7.62 by 39 is one of the most ready available ammo out there, and it is definitely a accurate gun, accurate bullet. Out of the AK-47, it's not that accurate. You put it in an AR-15, it changes the world for this thing. So I'm going to still stick with the Mutant because it does have all those changes, that beefed up bolt, the beefed up bolt carrier group, and uses the AK-47 magazine, so it's not a true AR-15, and I wouldn't even call it the AR-15 platform. But just know that you can do this in an AR-15 platform, and people have gotten better at it since the last time we've been talking about it. 7.62 by 39, end of the world gun. Gotta love that cartridge. Alright, we're moving on. This is going to be a dirty one. I pulled this out of a magazine. That is the 7.62 by 40 WT. This is made by Wilson Combat. It's also using a 223 casing. 7.62 by 40 WT was supposed to be an improvement on the 300 Blackout and the 7.62 by 39, and which it is. It will shoot out to 800 yards using a 20-inch barrel, no problem. It is more accurate than the 300 Blackout. It goes further than the 300 Blackout. It is more accurate than the 7.62 by 39. It goes further, and it has more knockdown than both of them. That thing right there is a beast. Wilson Combat knew what they were doing, and they made this just remarkable cartridge out there to do everything that you wanted it to do in a 30 caliber using that 223 casing. And I have nothing but good things to say about it. It holds a good grouping at 100 yards, it holds a good grouping at 300 yards, it holds a good grouping at 400 yards, and it holds a good one at 800, and the data is easy to collect. So I'm not going to talk too much more about that, because the next one that we have up here is the 300 hammer. Let me be your hammer. That is also using that 5.56 223 casing 30 caliber bullet. Now what is magnificent is all it is the improvement of the 7.62 by 40 WT. Each grain that you'll see in the different bullets of these cartridges, this thing on an average is moving 25 to 50 feet per second faster per grain. So if you grab 125 grain out of the 7.62 by 40 WT, all right, you can get the same speed out of 130 or 135 grain on this, and or the 125 grain in this bullet is moving 25 to 50 feet per second faster. It has more knockdown power than the 7.62 by 40 WT. They figured out to get the PSI at its max and still be safe and shoot out of an AR-15 platform. This is the hardest hitting, best 30 caliber, most accurate 30 caliber in the AR-15 platform. And I got a video up of shooting a hog and a coyote. Poor coyote. Anyways, I knocked down about a 400-pound hog. It put it down no problem. This thing does have a little bit of kick. You can tell it's at that max PSI, but it is crazy awesome bullet. Wilson Combat did improve on a crazy bullet already. 7.62 by 40 WT, the 300 hammer. This is what I have to say about this. If you own a 7.62 by 40 WT, I don't feel like the 300 hammer is enough improvement to go and get it. That is my opinion. If you do not have either one of these cartridges, get that 300 hammer because it's worth it. What a crazy awesome bullet. Glad I chose it, and here we are. Now, to give you an idea, 7.62 by 40 WT was one of those ones that I went with just because I was able to get it for free. All right, 300 hammer, and I'm glad for it because it is an awesome bullet. 300 hammer I chose. Why? Because it's just better. It's better than any 30 caliber out there, especially in the 223 casing in an AR-15 platform, people. Do not get me mistaken on that. All right, moving on. We have the 338 Spectra. That is a wicked looking bullet right there. Big bullet. It's using a 10 millimeter Magnum casing. SBR makes this. I'm good friends with SBR. And this bullet, our cartridge, has been a lot of fun. I've done a lot with it. I usually use it for mostly my, not coyote, but hog hunting, sorry. And that's about it. I do enjoy it. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I do continue to use it. It's lost a little bit of spark for me just because that's what happens. I will say this, if anything is going to match the 300 Blackout in subsonic, it's going to be this 338 Spectra. It does a real good job staying pretty steady, even out to 2, maybe 300 yards. I haven't done 3, but I have done 2. It is pretty accurate at 400, nothing crazy, all right? Real accurate at 100. They have a lot of different bullets out there. SBR they do a great job with all their testing and just getting some cartridges out there. In fact, some of your bigger manufacturers actually go to SBR for them to do some of the things that they do, so, and make some of the bullets that they do, including Wilson Combat. So your 458 SOCOMs as well are going to them. So these guys, they know what they're doing, and they do a good job. Back to the 338 Spectra anyways, great bullet. Man, that's putting out, I've been spitting out that 225 grain. I kind of like using it. I think it's only moving about, 1900 feet per second, something like that. Not bad for its size. I mean, it is what it is. It does well at functioning, and it's okay at distances out to about 400. Like I said, it's not crazy good, but most importantly, it does real good at around 100. Great for deer hunting as well. Awesome on those hogs. Oh man, that thing just does great on hogs, and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that SBR sent it to me. All right, moving along, we are moving now to the 375 SOCOM. 375 SOCOM is also one of those bullets from SBR that I just find awesome cartridge anyways. This thing can shoot a magnitude of different grains of bullets, different types of bullets, and it does real good job functioning. It doesn't have a crazy amount of kick, even though it does have some. I had a hard time getting the Bauer suppressor to quiet it down the way I wanted it, but other than that, it is crazy accurate. I shot it out to 300 yards, and this is a big old bullet moving slow. So you know, and when I say big old bullet, I mean these things they got 300 grains moving past 2,000 feet per second. So they got a lot of knockdown. These do awesome. This is one of my new deer hunting rifles. So around where I'm at, a lot of it's going to be 300 yards or in, and this is one of the bullet cartridges my dad and I like to use, and I'm just so happy with it. Use the 458 SOCOM casing. It's just a little bit smaller. Bullet moves a little bit faster. It doesn't have the knockdown, but it's close to the 458, and it's going to be a drop more accurate. In fact, if you watch the 375 versus the 50 Beowulf, and we will do the 375 versus 458, 375 SOCOM outperforms the 50 Beowulf all day long. Love this cartridge. Love SBR for making it. Golly, what a cartridge. Alright, moving on, we'll go to its bigger brother, the 458 SOCOM. There you see that big 550 grain full metal jacket, 458 SOCOM. So here we are with the 458. I actually went to the 375 before I did the 458, and it's what caused me to go to the 458. I already had the 50 Beowulf, and I didn't want to go to the 458. I thought there was a little too much hype or whatever. Then after doing the 375, well, I said, and it performs so well, I need to go 458. I am late to the game on the 458. 458 is exactly what people say. Flat out awesome. I made a huge mistake. Years have went by where I should have been using this cartridge, and I wasn't. The 458 runs from 200 grains to 550 grain. And what I've noticed between the 250 and 500 is that there isn't that much difference in point of aim, point of impact. That is crazy to me. This thing has crazy knockdown power. This thing has crazy penetration. Trom-X is one of the originals on it, but of course SBR, like everything, they made it better. And this 458 SOCOM is crazy good. Love it. There's just so many things we can talk about. I took it to 300 yards as well. Held a great group. I didn't even get to see much of the grouping because it knocked the damn target over. I mean, this thing's got that much power. I have shot deer after deer after deer with this one, And like I said, my dad and I now use 375 and 458 to deer hunt, and I get to use the 458. He uses the 375 now, and it's just awesome. It is. I tell you what, if you don't have the 458 SOCOM sitting in your safe, then you're missing out. And another thing is just like the 375, they do great on hogs. 458 SOCOM, moving over 2,000 feet per second on most of its bullets. 455, 550 aren't. And of course, just like 375 SOCOM, you can go to a subsonic and you can do pretty good. In fact, 375 SOCOM, I do have videos up on my hunting channel, Midnight Thud, of us shooting it subs. Last one, 50 Beowulf, Alexander Arms, same people that make 6.5 Grendel. It is using a 223 bolt, which if you'll see at the very bottom, you can see that bottom of that casing is real small, and its own type of casing. 50 bullet, 550 grain. Awesome bullet when it comes to just tearing things up. Not terribly accurate, not that great. I haven't taken them out. I have a hard time trying to hit targets at 200 yards. It had something crazy like a 22-inch drop or something at between 200 and 225 yards or something like that. I don't remember everything exactly, but this 50 Beowulf it's good. It's not the 375 or 458. I'm not going to get rid of it. I just don't do much with it anymore.